and I'm also, unfortunately, a big believer that, like, I don't think Luka's necessarily going to be the guy on a championship team. There are things that he does that sort of irk me. Yeah, I get that he's an amazing basketball player and he's a great
do
scorer,
tell. I'd like to hear more.
Like, I don't know that his style, like, I really don't know that his style translates. Yes, individually on every list that you could possibly make, but as a championship, participant, there's something about him that it just turns me off every time. But maybe that missing piece is what would change the sort of style or the way. The thing is, I don't think Luka changes. I think Luka's Luka. I don't know what y'all are doing. I gotta be honest. Like, it is, something has to change, but what that is, I don't know. And until LeBron also decides, like, you're kind of in a quagmire. You're in purgatory is what this is.
What Beadle brought up, I think, now that's interesting. Okay. She says she doesn't believe Luka has it, right? Like, to be the guy that could actually be the one to lead you to a championship. Now, he's got the stats. She's not wrong about that. But what we did see against the Boston Celtics in his one finals appearance, he got picked on. You thought James Harden got picked on yesterday? Well, Luka got that treatment against the Boston Celtics, okay? And in essence, so much so that our buddy Wendy, who's going to join us at 9 o'clock, called him out for it nationally, and it became a big story, okay? Now, if you look at some of the guys who have won championships, okay, who aren't necessarily what I would call, all NBA style defenders, right? Two-way type players. Guys like Shea, but you would say he competes on defense and is actually pretty good at it at times, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. The Boston Celtics have two-way players. Tatum and Brown, their best players, both play defense. Nikola Jokic, okay, was a guy that a few years ago you could take advantage of defensively. But leading up to the year that they won the championship in 2023 was no longer that. He was no longer a net negative on defense. As a matter of fact, he became a net positive defensively. And they won a championship. Steph Curry. Now, they won championships, but if you look at the 2016 finals, he got picked on in that series. And then after that, he started to defend at least. He didn't become, an elite level defender, but he was a guy that you couldn't necessarily pick on as much in the subsequent years. They also had Kevin Durant, which was helpful. But really the year I look at with Steph Curry, where he was probably at his best defensively, while albeit, probably still average defensively. Average is still good enough, in my opinion, when you carry that offensive burden, was in 2022 when they beat the Boston Celtics. And I think what the story that I'm trying to tell here is, if you're Luka Dončić, and this is not some sort of revelation, people have said this forever, you have to at least try defensively. I know John Ireland tried to make the case this year that, there's these like cherry-pick stats that you could say that he is equal to Amen Thompson and Jaden McDaniels in the post or whatever. You know what? James Harden had those same cherry-pick stats when he was with Houston. And we still saw that James Harden was getting picked on for years on the perimeter, which is really where the game is played the most now. Okay? So I think that for the Lakers to take that next step, whether they bring back LeBron or not, or whether Austin is part of this team, or they have the three, or they do it with Austin and Luka and they bring in different guys, this is going to begin and end with Luka Dončić no longer being a net negative on defense. He has to at least be average to a net positive defensively, and until he does that, the Lakers will not be a team that can win a championship, at least as currently constituted, against the likes of OKC or San Antonio.
Yeah, look, I'm going to still go back to what Wendy said last week. He'll join us at the top of the hour when we move over to YouTube. Wendy said, you want me to get really, really raw on you guys? And we're like, yeah, get raw, Wendy. And he said, it doesn't matter what they do. They're not going to be able to overcome San Antonio and Oklahoma City in the foreseeable future. Now, that being said, Luka got criticized a lot this year because not only does he not play good defense, there are many times where he spent his time bitching and complaining to the referees on one end of the floor, which meant that the opposing team was on the power play on the other end of the floor. So first and foremost, once Luka started to receive that criticism nationally, it did change a little bit. And I'm not saying that it was just because he heard what the media was saying. I'm sure that JJ and the coaching staff were imploring him, bro, please stop complaining to the referees and making it 5-on-4. even if you're just a body down on the defensive end, now it's at least 5-on-5. George, listen, we hear about a guy like Wemby who goes and visits with Hakeem Olajuwon as an example.
And Kevin Garnett, by the way. I looked that up the other day, too. Yeah, he also met with Kevin Garnett, which is great.
So great. And then there are other guys that are like, hey, this guy's an expert at free throw shooting. This guy is an expert at three-point shooting. Whatever. You find these coaches. I don't know who it is in the NBA world that is considered like the defensive guru that can individually coach, no different than your chef or your personal trainer. There's got to be guys out there. I don't know who they are, but I assure you they exist. You might know. I don't. Who is the guy that is known as the defensive guru that can meet with Austin Reeves and with Luka this summer and say, guys, you're excellent offensive players. Everybody already knows that. You've got to work on your defense. And it's not as if they're not athletic enough. I realize they may not be the greatest athletes in comparison to LeBron or Shea as examples, but they've got to be able to be coached into finding a way to play a decent level of defense. Do you know of a guy who's that person? Do you know of that? Who's a defensive stopper specialist that people hire? I'm putting you on the spot. You may not, but
you're saying the inverse of it.
I don't know what inverse means.
So are you asking me, was there a person who was a great defender who then became a better offensive player?
No, I'm asking you, is there a person that is considered a great defensive player that works with players who are not very good defensive players to help them get better? Like for example, when you hear...
Oh, you're saying like an old head
right,
type.
Like for example, Kurt Warner, the former Rams quarterback, he works with lots of NFL quarterbacks. He helps raise NFL quarterbacks. During the season, he watches film, he analyzes, he talks to these guys. He'll get on the field with them. He'll work on footwork stuff. Is there that kind of a guy who is a former NBA player who's known as a guy that people would call for consultation about defense?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. But look, I just think in professional sports, let's relay this to the Dodgers. Bergman, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm a big believer in sports, in baseball. We'll use baseball as the example, right? Your best players on your baseball team, I think, need to be two-way players. Guys that you know are going to be good at the plate and are going to be able to defend their position at the very least at a high level, if not at an elite level. Like a silver slugger type guy, right? Like a golden glove type guy. I think your best players need to have some combination of that. Obviously in baseball, there's the old adage of you need to be strong up the middle, okay? Which is why Mookie Betts got moved to shortstop, right? And he struggled a little bit early on, but towards the end of last season, I mean, really for the majority of last season, I thought he did a really good job. I mean, he had, what is the stat they used to measure?
Defensive runs saved.
Runs
DRS,
saved.
Yep.
He was number one, was he not? I believe, or in the top
yes,
three,
he was in
I
the top
believe,
one.
at his position.
It was either first or second, but I think he was first.
Right, exactly. To me, in all of sports, you have to be able to defend your position. Now, football's different, obviously, because they have offense and defense. But in two-way sports, Freddie Freeman, look, the three best player for the Dodgers in some capacity, right? The way they built this team as to be, these were the three guys, the three pillars, right? It was Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, right? They acquired those guys at different stages. All three of those guys are excellent at multiple things. They are multifaceted players, and that is the thing with the Lakers. They're going to need Luka to be more multifaceted, and that means defense if they ultimately want to get over the hump and try to beat these two behemoths in front of them.
And then they better get guys like Will Smith, because you've got your big three with the Dodgers,
right,
but a guy like Will Smith is a great player on both sides of the ball.
He's one of the best catchers in baseball defensively.
Correct.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You need to build this thing the right way. And luckily for the Lakers, the people who built the Dodgers are also involved with the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.